What's up, Internet? You're tuned into episode 92 of the FlipScreen Games Podcast, a weekly video game podcast where two best buds from different nations come together to discuss the wide, wide world of video games. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always by my very good friend and co-host, Mr. Stephen Radford.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Steve. So,
I just want to say before we start, Pete, thank you for your continued unwavering support of PlayStation.
Steve, Steve, I've been called a PlayStation fanboy in my day by some, right?
Many times.
I often contend that I'm not one. I love PlayStation. I do, right? I love a lot of their first party games. I get excited for their conferences. I think historically they have often brought the heat.
Sure would have been nice to see some first party games today, that's for sure.
But today, man, I'll tell you what, I came this close to coming on in an Xbox shirt just to troll because I'm like, guys, I understand that, when you overhype yourself, right, for an event like this, I often would argue you have no one to blame but yourself, right? PlayStation
No, I don't think so. In this
promise,
case.
right? But in this case, come on, man, to come out and be
This
like,
was
we have an over an hour long showcase of about games for the PS5 and the PSVR 2, and to present it with all that pomp and circumstance, and for it to come out like with a thud like this is, I gotta say, this is the most disappointed I have ever been in a PlayStation showcase. I think this has got to be the worst.
I mean, this is only the second one we've had for the PS5, right? Or maybe it's the third now.
It's the third from the
Um,
PS5 because remember there was the one that came
yeah.
out in launch year, and then there was
hmm
the last
in
one
2021.
where
But
we
we didn't
got
get one last year, and the rumor was that it got delayed, right? If this was what they were delaying it for, I don't think they had any need to. I'll
So
be
I wanna
honest.
I wanna I wanna come into a question here or a comment here. This one comes from your father over on our Discord who wrote in and said, disappointed with very little actual gameplay. Seems Sony has gone backwards with their presentations. And that's exactly how it felt to me today. Because, you know, regardless of your feelings on the last two presentations, right? I feel like this is the first major Sony presentation, like, state of plays notwithstanding, that I've walked away with very, very little to be excited about. And
Yeah.
overall, this, Spider-Man footage notwithstanding, which of course we'll talk about at length, and I'm very pleased about that. So I'm glad to have something to hold on to. Uh, I this whole presentation really left me cold. There was very little here that was really exciting, and the pace did not work for me either. So man, it is a somber one here for me as a PlayStation fan. Not only that, you got your most insane prediction come
Mm.
true. So salt right in that wound,
I know.
right? Insult to
I
injury.
was very happy when that happened, and I'm ready for you to bring your hat on the next episode, Pete. Maybe when Max is back, because I really want to see him. Really want
No, no,
him
no.
to
He
witness it as
can't be
well.
around. He can't be around. That guy, forget him. All right. He wants to talk smack. Let him get some points on the board. All right. Let him actually like be a
We're one
competitor. All right.
apiece now. We're all one apiece now. Max got the Forspoken, less than 80. You've supposedly got the Summer Game Fest,
Again,
getting
you
higher
keep
figures
saying
than E3.
supposedly
Yeah,
as if
supposedly.
exactly when we did the predictions and I said if it doesn't happen that counts and y'all agreed it's
I
worth
don't
2
remember.
points. So I'm winning. So I don't know where, whatever. But
hmm
I don't want to sully your real victory today with your imagined fake victories that you like to parade around. You called a home run to I don't know what they call that in cricket, Steve. But you did the bit. You pointed, you
It's a
smacked
6.
it right out of the park.
Yeah,
What did
we
they
call
call
it
it
a
in
6.
cricket?
It's got a 6.
You got a 6. You did it.
Yeah.
You called your 6, bud. You did it. You did it. You nailed it. And I got to give you props for that. So, you know, we're gonna find the fun here, folks. All right, we're gonna find the fun, and hopefully, if you are as disappointed as I was, you can at least laugh a little bit at my disappointment from
Yeah.
this
Well,
showcase.
I mean, I did find some things that I was excited about to go away with. There were a couple of games that I was really excited about. However, I'm yet to find a reason to turn my PlayStation 5 back on. It's been off since I played Horizon, and it's not been turned back on since, really. And
You gotta play
that
that
granted,
Horizon
that is
DLC. It's
because
good.
no, I haven't. But granted, it's because it's like my secondary console. I really play most
Yeah.
of my games on Xbox. A lot of the games I was excited about are also coming to other platforms, and
Mhm.
they're also coming to PC, where some of these I feel like will fit really well on like a handheld. Maybe we'll talk about handheld in just a
I
second,
was gonna
but
say, speaking of handhelds, you can kick right into that one, man.
yeah, what an absolute weird section that was. Like before we get on to the Spider-Man gameplay,
We're
here I
gonna
am,
just
Jim
announce
Ryan.
this random piece of hardware. By the way, we have no details for you. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah, and it looks so goofy. It look if someone showed me this, I'd be like, "This is a Photoshop. This is someone's cut a screen, they've cut a dual sense in half, and they've shoved like an 8-inch Android tablet in the middle of it." That's like 100% what it looks like. It's the goofiest looking thing I've ever seen. I do not understand this product. It's a streaming only device seemingly, but it only streams from your PS5. So why would I bother with that when I can already do that on other devices? I mean, I guess maybe it depends on the price. Like if they're charging like $100 for this thing, which they definitely won't be, then maybe.
I mean, you
But
don't know that, right? And
I
I think
don't know
that's
that.
and
But
and
like
I
a
also
dual
think
sense is like what,
I I
$60?
I do think the idea though of like, "Oh, I can do this on other devices," is I think very like that's an us kind of centric opinion. Most people do not own a Steam Deck, and I don't think
Most
that.
people own a smartphone though,
Yeah, but
and they
streaming to your
can connect
smartphone is
to
is not an analogous experience at all. Um,
I disagree. I would imagine this is just an Android tablet that's or similar that allows you to stream from using the same remote play protocol that you can use on anything.
yeah,
Why would that not
but
be any different to streaming to an Android tablet and connecting like a DualSense to it?
because I think it's a totally different experience. Having a dedicated device is different than having to have a tablet, right? Because again, are you a tablet owner, right? Like, do you already own a tablet, right? Then sure, right? Maybe you wouldn't buy this. But if you don't already own a tablet, are you going to invest in a high quality tablet that's really capable of like giving you the quality of gameplay experience that you're going to get on this dedicated device? And when you pack that, right, you have to pack a loose controller rather than something that's a dedicated
Mhm.
device that has the functionality that you expect with the DualSense. You know, I make the same argument now that I made about it when it was a rumor, right? Where I think that there's a very niche specific use case where this works if the price is right. And I don't know that it will be, but
I don't think it will be based on Sony's pricing of other products recently.
I
That
don't know. Like I think that's making a pretty big assumption based on like
if
those
this is, I
products that are
think,
that are
any more.
premium products versus this, which is being marketed as an accessory. Right?
Yeah,
He
yeah,
called it that specifically. It's an accessory to the PS5. It's not a console. It's not, PlayStation VR 2, right? Which is its own device. It is,
yeah.
that's a platform, right?
I'm curious to see if it works outside the home. Like if it can work outside the home and it's reliable outside the home and I can use it on like a 5G hotspot or in a hotel or something, then maybe I could see a purpose for this. Because I did use my Vita in the same way. Like I
Sure.
played PS4
Right.
remote play when I was in the office or whatever, and I played a bunch of Skyrim that way. But I don't know. For me, this is definite no, because I own a Steam Deck and I can remote play games to that anyway from my
Right.
PS5. It's just I struggle to see this being anything other than a very niche product for them. And they
I
seem to keep
agree.
putting out niche products, and I just it's bizarre to me.
I think that's the thing though, right? Is like I think if that's their expectation for it and it's priced that way, then that's not a problem. But We don't know enough about it for that to be the case, right? I'm not sitting here saying, "Oh, this is definitely a good idea." It's more like they have to tell us more about what the vision of it is, I think, before I can like fairly pass judgment that it's for no one, right?
Mm.
Because not everybody wants to spend the price of a full console to get a Steam Deck to use it the way that we do, right? Or not everybody has a Vita where they can take advantage of remote play. And that's old technology that you'd have to then buy, secondhand.
Oh,
It's a
yeah, it doesn't
whole.
even work with the PS5 at this point.
So like with
Um,
this, right? Like there is clearly a market of people that use remote play and that like remote play and want to take advantage of it. And if they can release this at a reasonable price point, as you said, right? Like in that kind of maybe $125 range. Um,
if they can hit that, I think they're probably onto a winner. If it's much more than that, if you're going up to say 199, at that point, I make the argument you should spend another $100 and buy yourself a Steam Deck. If it's coming up to like the $200 price point,
yeah.
go
Yeah.
and buy yourself a Steam Deck.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah, but I think it's if it is under that and it's like, oh, like I think arguing to someone, oh yeah, just spend 300 more dollars, 200 more
Mhm,
dollars is different, and I could see like if I was a PlayStation first gamer and all I want to be able to do is when I'm on a plane on the Wi-Fi system there or when I'm on, I'm at a hotel or whatever or I'm at my parents' house visiting or, whatever, I can access my PlayStation library on the go. And as you said, if it works seamlessly, if it does do those things in a way that is easy for the casual user, I think it could be something, right? It could be something that speaks to that middle person, right? Who's more hardcore than the casual, but more casual than the very hardcore. And
mhm.
I don't know if that's enough to support a device, but it what is their expectation, right? Is this a thing that they want 10% of PlayStation 5 owners to adopt?
Yeah, it
Then
just
okay,
seems
maybe that's
so
reasonable.
it seems so reactionary to me. Like, it seems like a reactionary product. Like, oh, we've seen people using remote play on these other devices, and over the fence at Microsoft, they're making that cloud gaming play. They've got these devices that they're teaming up with Logitech. We need something like that, but we don't have a cloud gaming play ourselves really at the moment. So we're
I don't
gonna
know.
make it so you have to like have these games installed on your PS5.
You could be right about that it is reactionary, but I also think that, like, that also to me, I wonder if that is a us-centric point of view, because I would argue that PlayStation was doing remote play in this way before any of those people that you just described.
They
With
were, but they very much abandoned it. Like, when the Vita went away, it was like, it's kinda no more. It took
I mean, it
them a
still works on
long
an iPad
time.
though, right? You
Yeah, it
could
took a
still do it on
long
a
time to
tablet.
come to mobile, though.
Sure.
I think it was only in the last couple of years that
But,
it
like,
came to mobile.
I'm pretty sure, Olaf from the community has commented, about how he has a tablet and brings his DualSense and does this on the
Yeah,
road,
I know a
so,
bunch of people that do. I
um
and I know people get like a backbone for like a Razer backbone
right,
for
right.
their phones and things
But
like
even
that,
that,
and
right?
they do that.
That doesn't have adaptive triggers.
Mm.
So, and like if that is close in price to what we're talking about in terms of the price point. So the idea that like that is worth it and this isn't, I think is silly. Because
No,
like
but like I
also
said, it depends on the price.
on
Like
the
if
price
this
point.
is $200, I've got one last question. What do you think this is called? Because I've got a good idea in mind of what they're going to call it.
I mean, it better not be Project Q. I can't believe
No,
they should have just told us what it's called. Why would you
I
reveal
don't
it when
think
you
they
don't have
know
a
yet.
name? It's so
I think
silly.
they're going to call it the dual screen because everything seems to be or something sense like screen sense or something stupid like that.
Cloud Sense.
Oh God. Yeah, I could 100%. It's not going to be cloud. So it might be like remote something, or they do the typical Sony thing of just like calling it what it is, like PlayStation Remote Play handheld accessory or whatever, because they do that with their some of their other products like their headphones. It's just like Sony one PlayStation wired headphones.
Yeah, I think with this, you're gonna want to have a hotter name. You know,
Hmm.
I think with the buds, I think it's better to not have a name, honestly. Like, I think it's like would be lame if they were like, "Ooh," like when they're like this the Sony like Super Game Boost heads. It's like it's a headset. Shut up. Like they're earbuds. I
Yeah.
get it. They're PlayStation branded earbuds. Awesome. You know, but I don't know. I'm fascinated by this thing because it seems like such a weird idea. It really does. But I think the price point is gonna be the thing, right? Because if like, there are people that use the backbone and that believe in that technology and take advantage of it, I think this will undeniably offer a
But
better experience.
I think the good thing about getting a backbone and using it with your phone as opposed to this device is I can use it with other things. I can play my Pokemon emulated games, and I can
Or Game
download like
Pass.
a GameCube emulator, and I
Yeah.
can play Game Pass, and I can use all of those things on that device.
Personally, I still wouldn't do that because I find the experience of playing like quote unquote, like real games, right? Like games that are not made for mobile devices on mobile devices, with the rare exception of a Pokemon emulator or something like that that you can use a touchscreen for. I find it to be a completely miserable experience.
That is why
Um
so many people play Genshin Impact,
yeah,
and
but
it's like
I
it's huge,
And
right?
and I
And like,
don't doubt that, but I think that there's a huge percentage of people that want to play games on the go and don't wanna play that on their phone
mhm.
because it drains your battery, you have notifications popping up, it's just the screen is not optimal for the like, in terms of size or dimensions, and all of those things, like, lead to a way substandard experience, in my opinion, and I think that
I'd
there are a
love to
lot of
know what the
people.
battery life on this is because like the DualSense lasts for about 2 minutes.
And that's going to be a great question too, right? Because again, if it is supposed to be a mobile device, it's going to have to be able to do that. And I don't know, right? It's not going to be enough if it's just like, oh, I can stream it from downstairs where I have my PlayStation upstairs. Like, I don't know, is someone going to buy a dedicated device for that? I don't know. Maybe some people, but the hardest of the hardcore. But I don't know. It
Yeah, yeah.
I think it all comes down to price point and overall experience. Because if it does provide a good low latency experience that does feel seamless, and I think even if it's at 200, I think I could see it finding an audience. I think it's when you creep over that where it's totally ridiculous, and I think even at that price, it's gonna have to be flawless,
Yeah, and
and I don't know that it can be.
I don't think this technology has ever been deemed flawless
No,
in any way.
no.
I could see it at I could see it being above 200. A DualSense Edge is £209 in the UK, and I could easily see them thinking that this is worth more than a DualSense Edge. And it probably is because it's got that big glossy touchscreen that's probably
It
high
is a nice looking
resolution.
screen.
So I could easily see this being like a 250, $300 device. But we'll have
That
to wait and
seems
see.
so crazy though, right? To the idea that they would try to price it the same amount as like a Switch when it's like not a handheld device that you can use. I mean, again, though, we don't know everything about it, right? If there is some way to play offline or something
Well,
like that,
the trailer said all games need to be installed on the PlayStation 5,
it does say that, and it says
and
it excludes
excludes
VR games.
VR2 games, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know that there is a way to play offline. I think it does need to be installed on the PS5, and you kinda have to be connected to Wi-Fi in order to play it.
And I think you must be right, right? And in that case though, I don't see how you justify that price point. I don't, you know?
No. Yeah, but it's gonna be interesting, very interesting. Are you gonna pick one up if it is the good price along with the PlayStation earbuds? Because I know you like your PlayStation headphones.
I do like my PlayStation headphones. Maybe I don't know. Like, I kind of want to get a set of wireless earbuds because I'm really getting sick of like having to buy adapters and stuff because nobody wants to support headphone jacks anymore. That's become like a really annoying experience. So I'm at the point where I'm like, kind of like, I might as well acquiesce. And I think the
I can't
idea
believe
of
you haven't. Like, I've had AirPods since, like, day 1. I've moved on
I
to, like,
hate them. I just
Beats
hate
and
them.
stuff.
Like,
I love them.
I think it's a real I don't Bluetooth technology is generally not very good. It's like it's generally finicky, and I don't love that. So, like, the idea that, like, I used to just have a jack that had no
And you
problem
plug
with
it in.
latency, and I
Yeah.
could just plug it in, and it just works. That is what headphones are supposed to be.
I mean,
And as,
they
like, an
say these are really low
audiophile,
latency,
I
right?
want it to be a perfect
Mm,
quality, right? And like wired headphones are better than wireless headphones in terms of quality. So it's like not only am I having a more annoying experience, I'm also sacrificing audio quality, which is something I find to be pretty annoying.
mhm.
But again, I have been thinking about biting. So if these come out similarly priced to these, where I thought the quality outweighed the price, I might consider it, because I don't necessarily want to invest in a pair of AirPods or or like something more high end, just because the most high end wireless headphones are still not very good. So it's
Mhm.
to me, it's not worth the money. I'd rather have something that's like budget but above average, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I get that. I don't think these would be considered budget. I think Sony usually make good audio
They
products, so
do. Yeah. So like, I think I could see myself maybe considering those.
mhm.
For sure. I think when it comes to the Project Q, if it's very cheap and like there's some way for me to buy it as a curiosity and like use it for content, I could see myself doing that. Just
Yeah,
in
like,
terms of
I'd
my own
love it to
personal
have,
use,
like
I have a Steam Deck. So
mm,
I don't know that I need it. But again, the DualSense functionality is kind of cool. Like that's a nice thing. I don't know. We'll
I'd
see.
love it to be, I'd love it if it supported, like, HDMI out and you could just, like, take this up and plug it into, like, another TV in your house or something. Um,
That I would definitely I could see myself considering that
and
in
it's like
terms of like
a secondary, like, streaming device to bring it around, yeah.
but not having to buy a second PlayStation 5, you know?
Yeah. But, like, I'm looking over Tom Henderson's reporting at Insider Gaming, who broke the story, like, a few months ago.
Yeah,
Um, and he says it supports adaptive streaming, up to 1080p 60 frames per second, but requires constant connectivity to the internet. And it says, what we've seen is a massive 8-inch touchscreen with with a PlayStation 5 controller tacked on the side, but also has volume button, speaker, and an audio jack, but no report of an HDMI or anything.
interesting one. We'll have to wait for more, right? They said we'll have more details soon, and the rumor in Tom's original report was that it was going to release later this year. So I think the idea that we'll hear
Did they
more about
say
it.
when it was gonna release, or did they just say we're gonna have
They
more
didn't. They
news?
said there would be more details soon, but I don't think
Mhm.
they established a window for it. Looking at yeah, no. There's no mention of it. So interesting one. I guess we'll see. Uh, I wish it was different. I wish it was a proper dedicated device rather than what this is, but I'd be happy to be proven wrong, you know? So jumping into speaking of like things that were rumored, right? That I feel like we already knew were coming when they actually happened. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater the remake has been confirmed, right? That's
Another leak.
obviously
This was another leak from Insider Gaming. I have a feeling he must have seen this presentation, like, ahead of time at this point, because
yeah.
there was a lot of stuff that he leaked that was in here.
Yeah, or just, had a source that was involved with putting it
Yeah.
together and gave enough detail to fill in the blanks for us. Because this was one of those things where, like, when it happened, I was like, "Man, it's a shame that this was leaked." Right? Like, if it wasn't so heavily rumored, that would have been
Yeah.
such an insane moment, and I think it would have made this entire presentation feel more hype, and
What, do you remember the Resident Evil remake that they did, the announcement for RE4? That was crazy hype, and, like, everyone went mental for it. But even,
yeah.
like, Resident Evil 2 remake, it was just, like, a rat going through, like an air vent and stuff, like, and no one knew it was coming. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was really exciting.
That's like what you hope for, right? And it's like I
Yeah.
think there are some reveals that like are not really hurt by rumors, right? Like, but this is one that it's like if all you have is a cinematic trailer that like the entire thing really has nothing to do with the actual like game or anything in a meaningful way. Like it is just kind of like there's ants, then there's a bird, and it's not until over a minute and 45 of nothing that we really get. Or no, I'm sorry, it's a little less than that. It's a minute and a half before you get the snake moment, and that's cool or whatever. But it would have been really cool if we didn't kind of have the wind taken out of that sail already. You know?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And, I have no kind of nostalgia for this game. I never played it. The only Metal Gear Solid game I ever played was number 1 on the PS1. I think this was on the PS2. Um,
Yeah, this was. I think this and two were both on PS2, right?
I think 2 was on PS1, but you might be right. I'm not sure. But I know
But
they both did this one get remade already, or is this
no,
was it,
I
like,
believe this is the first
remastered?
time. There may have
Okay.
been like a slight HD kind of version of it or something like that, but it's not like
Not
they're
like
what is it?
Twin
Twin
Snakes.
Snakes, which was like a
Mm.
proper remake, right? Um, I was correct. Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty was on PlayStation 2.
So, yeah, I mean, if you wanna replay those, like, the originals, they're coming in that master
They're all coming
collection.
back, yeah, in
Yeah.
August, which is cool because obviously they got delisted for some rights issues that I guess have been resolved. So that's great. Um, I don't know. I this is a weird one for me because I'm like you. I've never been a Metal Gear Solid guy. I was kind of too young for MGS when it came out, and then I was too young for 2 and 3 really when they came out. Like I had an older friend that I watched play a little bit of 3 and
I watched
everything.
my dad play number 1, like, with that, like, exclamation mark sound when you're, like,
Ding.
when they're
Yeah.
looking. Yeah.
Um. So that's like all well and good. I do kind of like feel like it's a gap for me, and I kind of would like to learn a little bit more about it and see if I can get into it. So the idea of like them making an MGS3 that maybe like has some quality of life improvements and, you know, like a good autosave feature and so, some of that kind of stuff that you come to expect in more modern games. But can kind of keep that magic alive. Um, I'm open to that. Um I'd like to have an inroad to that franchise. So,
Mm.
you know,
How do
you
you
want to
feel
hope for
about
the best here.
Konami how do you feel about Konami doing it in-house? This is the team or the same company, Konami Digital Entertainment, that's making it behind, eFootball and the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game.
So I think I'm of the opinion that we can't really judge like the current Konami too harshly until we kind of see a little bit more of what their intentions are because it seems like they are in a place where they want to I think kind of like rededicate themselves to gaming a little bit more than obviously a few years ago where we kind of saw them move away from console development and obviously, all of the drama of what happened with Kojima and everything. Um the idea that they want to get back into this space and leverage their IP again in more interesting ways and in ways that are going to speak to, gamers is not something that I think we can really know until we see what these first couple projects look like, right? Like we have this game being developed in house. We have the Silent Hill 2 game being made with like I think it's Team Bloober, which is an outsourced project. So it's like
But there
we
was,
have
like, 3 Silent Hill projects they've got on the go, and I can't remember who else was working
yeah,
on them.
yeah. I don't quite remember what the other ones are. Um, but with that in mind, right? Like I don't want to judge these games that are coming up based on the fact that Konami moved out of game development for several years, right? Like if they are earnestly trying to come back, then okay, right? Like bring the sauce. Prove to me that that's your intention. And
Mhm.
they'll kill that doubt because that's all it takes to be back is a win. So if this game comes out and it is the remake people have been asking for as long as I've been covering video games, I think that they'll have a win on their hands and then the narrative will be Konami's back. They just had that Castlevania DLC with Dead Cells. That was hot, right? There was the Castlevania show on Netflix a couple years ago that ran for a long time. People like that. Like people love Konami's IP and the whole like Konami is this evil company that gave up on games so they can make pachinko machines and blah 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 blah. It doesn't take a lot to change a narrative. And that this Konami is not that Konami anymore, right? Businesses change, their priorities change. So if they're back to give it all and put it all on the table and try to deliver high quality software, then yeah, right? Like the fans will get what they want and we'll move on from that. So I think
Yep.
that that's very realistic.
But I'll give them the benefit of the doubt if it gets me a new Dancing Stage Euromix. That's all I want from Konami. Just give me Dancing Stage Euromix, a home edition, please.
Give me a new Ghosts and Goblins. Okay,
Hmm.
Konami, that's what I need.
Was Zombies Ate My
Wait, wasn't that
Neighbors then?
Capcom?
Yeah,
I
I
don't
was
even
thinking of
know. I don't
Zombies
even
Ate
know
My
what Konami
Neighbors.
makes. I was just trying to throw out a hipster choice, you know? So, all right, Steve. Let's do it. All right, let's
Yeah,
address the elephant in the room. Bungie has announced their new game, and it's Marathon,
it is Marathon,
which
yeah.
is a
How
sci-fi
excited were you?
PvP extraction shooter. It is a a revival of the only other IP that they've ever made besides Halo or Destiny. And Steve called it. He called it.
I know. I was so excited when it happened. It's not at all like the original Marathon. The original Marathon was like Doom. This is obviously not like Doom. But it's seemingly set in the same universe, and it's like a revival of that universe. It was a precursor to Halo, only available on the Mac, and the Bandai Pippin, which I want to get hold of one day and do a video about, but they're very very expensive, and probably all of the discs have got disc rot. But I was excited by this. I thought it looked really cool, and I like Bungie. I like the games that they've made. I actually was really excited about the Destiny 2 announcement as well, which I never thought I would ever be excited about a Destiny 2 announcement again, but I was somehow.
I don't I don't care about this. I don't know. Like I'll wait and see cuz I don't know, right? Like the it being PvP, I want to be open to that cuz I love Halo and I love Bungie's gameplay and their gunplay is, I think, really unmatched, right? Like I love the feel of their games. But Destiny could not be less for me. And that's been their identity for 10 years. So like for me, it's been since Halo Reach that Bungie has made something that's connected with me on any level. So
Mm.
I don't want to be like, yeah, like I'm so excited. I don't know. I don't know that I'm going to be excited for this. Show me some gameplay. Let me know what the moment to moment looks like and feels like. Is there an
I mean, it's gonna be
overarching
like Rainbow
world and
Six,
loot
isn't it?
and all that kind of junk I have to deal with? In which case, I'm out. I'm not doing any of that junk. I'm just not. If it
Yeah,
is a matchmaking PvP shooter like Halo, then I'm in.
no, I think it's gonna be like Escape from Tarkov or Rainbow Six, those kind of games. And I know it's not gonna be for me because of that, but I love the style of this. I love the look of it. I thought it looked so cool.
You don't care.
Um,
You just want your prediction points.
and I'm very, very happy that my prediction came true. I finally got a point on the board, which
Did it,
is
buddy.
very, very nice. Yeah.
We'll have to check in on those after Summer Game Fest and see how we're making
Yeah.
out.
See where we're at. Yeah.
So I'm not a Destiny 2 guy. So if you want to have your piece about Destiny, do that so I before I get to ramble about Spider-Man.
Insane. Absolutely insane. Cade is back. He died like in 2018.
Spoilers.
And like everyone knows at this point, and disappeared. And like he's back. Nathan Fillion is back, voicing Cade in the trailer. No idea what it's all about. Said something about the final shape. We're gonna have to wait and see on August 23rd when they've got a Destiny 2 showcase. And they'll reveal everything about it, I'm sure. But yeah, everyone was very, very excited about Cade. He was like a beloved character. Everyone loves Nathan Fillion, so he was very funny.
Well, that's great. I'm glad. Like I said, Destiny has never really been my thing, but um, I am friends with many Destiny fans, so I hope that y'all are happy
Yeah, everyone's gonna go
for Cade's
mental
return.
about Cade. Yeah.
That's good stuff. All right, Steve. Now I'm excited. This was where they saved it for me. We get to the very end of the tail end of this nightmare of a showcase, and we got nearly 11 minutes of Spider-Man, about 10 minutes of Spider-Man.
Mm.
And I gotta say, very pleased with what I saw. Um, I I don't know where to start, so I almost just want to. So what Steve did for this showcase, right? He was taking notes in real time. We had that's the bones of our document here, and Steve wrote, "Okay, Pete, fill me in. Who is this guy in the jungle?"
Yeah, I had no idea.
And
I thought I was watching like a fucking Rambo trailer to begin with because they didn't on the actual thing. They didn't show that it was Insomniac Games and Marvel and any of that stuff at the beginning. It just went into
right,
this dude in a fucking jungle who's like talking about stuff and following someone around, and then all of a sudden is like, "Oh, we should maybe go to New York instead.
So, Steve,
There's loads of Spider-Man around."
I want to embarrass myself just a little bit with regard to that. So I was so salty at this point in the showcase. I was like, Jesus, this has been miserable. They had this haphazard, oh yeah, here's this handheld, whatever, we'll talk about it later. Here's our last game. And they show me this man, right? And I was like, who is this man in this jungle? What the fuck? They're not even showing Spider-Man? And I said that until I heard the voice, and I was like, okay, it's Craven. It's Craven is his name, Steve. Craven the Hunter.
Of course. Right,
So
okay.
Craven the Hunter, classic Spider-Man villain, right? And the long story short, I mean, this is his origin right here, right? He is the world's greatest hunter. He's hunted, big game, and he fights like with bare hands, basically. He doesn't use guns or anything like that. He uh is very, very just wants to be challenged as a physical specimen, right? And wants to have that like really true fight for survival. That's kind of his whole thing. And he comes to New York to hunt Spider-Man. Because at that point, this is during the age where, Spider-Man's a menace. The cops are after him all the time. He's
Does
hated.
he know there's multiple Spider-Man?
I mean, well, in the comics, right? Like his introduction is about, I don't know, 60 years, 70, not 70, but 50 years before Miles Morales' creation, right? So quite a bit of time before that. So no. But in this, if you look, and I'm showing the footage right now for the kids on YouTube, um, when his one of his,
It
subordinate
shows multiple Spider-Man on the
it
map, on
shows
the New
both
York City
Peter
map,
and
yeah.
Miles on the map.
Yeah.
It's like it shows Black Cat, it shows, a Prowler and a bunch of the other, supervillains and stuff like that. But it shows both Peter and Miles on the map. And it looked like it showed another borough, like a new part of the map that we didn't see in the first game. So that's kind of interesting.
Was Queens in the first game?
Yes.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Um so pretty interesting, right?
Yeah.
Pretty
I was
pretty stoked about that.
I saw
So
like a
so
weird black suit with like the tentacles coming out of it, and I was like, "What is this? What's going on?"
Oh man, it's it's so you're just utter lack of knowledge is so like delightful to me in this way because like it's so like you're just like, oh, what's happening, right? And for me it's this, it's a reveal. uh so right, the two big villains that we're focusing on in this game are Craven the Hunter and Venom, right? So Venom, his whole thing is the black goop that you're seeing, right? Is a alien symbiote, right? That Peter got added to his suit while he was out in space during a big Marvel event, right? The context is not important. He comes
Okay.
back to Earth and he keeps the suit, right? And he doesn't realize that it's alive when he gets it. He only finds out that it's an alien um once it starts altering his personality. And you can see in this gameplay, right? Like even from the first fight, his voice is like deep and he's aggressive and he's like being more violent than he normally is. And then it's obviously that is confirmed by Miles' reaction to how he's behaving right throughout.
Mm.
So, for me, right, as a seasoned fan here, it seems pretty clear, I think, what
Is he gonna turn into Venom? Is that what's gonna happen?
I think what's going to happen, right, is that the kind of overall arc of the story, right, of Spider-Man 2 to me seems to be Craven shows up, right, and he starts hunting all of the superpowered folks in New York, right? I believe that Peter's going to get the symbiote from Harry, right? Harry Osborn, the son of Norman Osborn, who was the mayor in the first game. He's the Green Goblin historically. They at the
Yeah, I remember him from the 2000s movie.
You do, of course, Willem
I
Dafoe.
do. Yeah.
He's something of a scientist himself. And so that character, right, was shown at the end of the previous game. Spoilers for the end of Spider-Man 2018. You had your chance. So it was shown that he is trying to heal his son, Harry. That Harry is sick and has like a terminal illness, and he's trying to heal him with this symbiote. In the Ultimate comics, line, the symbiote isn't an alien and it is something that was created by, um, I think it was Peter's father is the one who made it. Yeah. And his mother and father are both scientists. I think they created it together. And they were making it to try to like create a cure for cancer. And instead they create this sentient thing that, lives on people. And it's a symbiote, right? So it needs to have a host to survive. And it
Yeah.
gives them all the powers that, you're seeing Spider-Man have in this footage. So like I think what's gonna happen is, you know, act one is Craven comes to town. Peter stops Harry, who's like possessed by the symbiote or whatever, and gets it on him. And then that's how he gets it. And he turns into Venom, more or less, right? Or starts turning and goes, him and Miles have kind of a breakup because Miles is like, "What are you doing, man? Like, you're changing, whatever." Peter clearly is getting changed by the suit. Miles will have to help him, get freed from that. And then the two of them will go face Venom probably in the third act of the game. It's kind of, what I'm thinking right now based on what we've seen. Um, which for me, I mean, I'm through the roof excited about this from like a story perspective and like getting these characters, but just seeing the footage was what I thought was so exciting. Like the changes to the combat, like how different Peter fights with the symbiote versus,
Oh yeah, yeah.
how
Like
he
it
did
was
in the last
crazy.
game. It's totally different. And like Miles has all these new powers from, what we saw in the Miles Morales game, as well as all the stuff that we already knew. So you will still have that ability to have like the more traditional gameplay from the first game, as well as some fresh stuff, being able to like switch back and forth between them on missions, but like having it be a prompted thing, not like like I'm just you randomly play as whoever, right? Like that is something that I was happy to see because I didn't want it to be more like Grand Theft Auto 3 where I'm just deciding that on the fly. I kind of want the game to dictate that for me, right? And like I want that to be Insomniac's choice, not my choice. So that I don't have that like, oh, who should I
I'd love to be able to like pick at a certain point though, and
I
like
think once
choose
you beat
which
the
avenue
story.
and which route you want to go down. Like I'm gonna go down like a Miles Morales play. I'm gonna go down a Peter Parker play, and like I'd love if you could replay it, right? And you can see how it would have played out if you picked the other side at a certain point. In the same way that you can like replay Resident Evil 2 and you either play as Leon or you play as Claire
Yeah, I
in
mean,
that
I could
regard.
see that being interesting in terms of like where we see them break up in the story and there being like different activities. But I feel like just the way that this story is being told is like it's not two individual stories, it's one,
Yeah.
right? And I don't I would rather it be that than it being like two kind of half baked experiences. Because that was something I was a little concerned about is like how is this going to feel moment to moment and how are they going to give both characters their moment and their space and not have it feel like crowded or like one of them is sidelined or like Miles seems as involved as I wanted him to be, right? Where it's like, okay, you're switching back and forth between them a lot during like main missions anyway. And I imagine Peter will probably have his own set of side missions. Miles will have his own set of side missions, and you can complete them based on where you are in the story. So I'm imagining in the beginning you'll probably play as both of them, then you'll probably just play as Miles, and then you'll probably play as both of them again, and I'm imagining maybe like when the game's over and you're cleaning things up, you can switch as much as you want, right? And like I'll go clean up the Peter stuff, I'll go clean up the Miles stuff. Um, we'll see though. Very interesting.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, it looked great. I mean, it looked like more of the same, but then like a lot more on top of that. And I think that's what people want.
yeah, like some
I
meaningful
enjoyed what I played as
innovation.
Spider-Man. Yeah, like 100%. Like the way Peter Parker goes around in this black suit, I was surprised. I had no idea what it was. So it's nice to be filled in on some Marvel.
Yeah, me giving you just like the, the like as quick of a breakdown as I can, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm very jazzed about this because like the first fight where you see it and he just starts moving like the symbiote, I was like, oh boy, like it's just so different, right? It's such a different uh fighting style, right? Than like what you're used to and like how Spider-Man normally moves, right? It's more about like being quick and nimble, not like these
Mhm.
big heavy hits and things like that, which I think is cool. gonna have some real diversity of gameplay in a way that I wasn't necessarily expecting. Um, Even thinking he probably would get the suit, at some point.
I wonder when he gets the suit. Like, where do you think this slice was from in the game? Have a feeling it's pretty early on.
I feel like this is either the very beginning of the game or it's like the end of the like either the end of the first act or the end of the like prologue. Like it feels very early in the game, but I also feel like
Well,
I
in the
feel
way
like we're
that they were,
going to
like, flying that
see.
helicopter in, and it was, like, 6 months later, it felt like that was
Yeah,
we're, like, coming in right at the beginning, like,
that's a
this is
good
the
point.
kind of right at the beginning of the story.
Yeah, no, you could be right. You could be right about that. I guess it's just like I feel like him getting the symbiote feels like a thing that we would see during the game, but maybe not, and maybe it will just be a thing that happened in between, and they'll catch us up on it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there is, like, a prologue that you get, and he gets the suit, and you see him getting the suit, and that's, like, how that happens, and then it goes into, like, act 1 of this hunter dude. What's his name? Craven?
Craven.
Craven comes into town and stuff. Like, does Miles know he has the suit? Like, and how he got the suit and this, that,
In
and the other? Do we know?
I don't think so based on the dialogue because when Peter shows up in the suit and it does the tendril thing, he makes a comment. He's like, "Well, man, like new threads." Like he comments on it being a new suit, and then at the end of the trailer or of this slice that we saw, right? Um, Miles is talking to his friend Genki, and Genki's like, is he usually like this or he's not usually like this, right? And then Miles is like, no, he's never like this, right? So like he clearly doesn't understand what's happening. He just knows that something's up, you know?
Yeah, like the texture on that suit is phenomenal. Like even the way his eyes are different, it's
Yeah.
like oh, so cool.
Yeah. You get that sense of it like moving, you know?
Yeah, and it feels like a bad thing. Like when I saw it, I was like, this doesn't feel like a good thing that's
Right.
happening.
Yeah, and again, right? Like you hear it in his voice right away when he's talking and like the way that he's like acting, like like the thing he says to Miles at the end, he's like, no, like he's mine, like, oh, and he's like, oh, like he's got pretty big teeth. He's like, yeah, I do too, right? And it's like, that's not Spider-Man, right? That's not Peter. That's not how he talks. That's not how he
Mm,
thinks. And yeah, like I'm very excited to see this story play out and have it play out in like a way it never has before because it never takes place with Miles in the picture. So the idea of like they can take Peter to a darker place and have him like get really like fucked up and lost in it and then have Miles have to like pull him out of it rather than like doing it himself, which is what he does originally. Very interesting. And I'm interested in who the symbiote is going to attach itself to after Peter gets rid of it. Because in the comics, it historically attaches to this guy Eddie Brock, who's like a rival of his. So there's like this mirrored like the symbiote hates Spider-Man because Spider-Man abandoned it, and Eddie hates Peter because he ruined his professional life, right? So like, and
oh.
it's them coming together that makes Venom, and it's like the two of them, their hate feeding off each other, and like having that very kind of specific vendetta, and like the whole character goes through this arc of like becoming an anti-hero because like really he's not evil, they just hate Spider-Man, and it's like there's a lot there that gets played for personal drama. And I feel like the first game did a pretty good job of making the struggles personal, right? Like the main villain of that game, without spoiling it, is somebody that Peter has a connection to, right? And um, there are like losses that happen that are very, like the both Peter and Miles have lost somebody very close to them just through what's happened in the games and stuff like that, right? So, like, we know people can die. We know that it can go to some of those kind of extreme places. And I'm excited to see how they're going to take advantage of the symbiote, not just from like a gameplay perspective, but from a story perspective. And, how do you give me all these powers and then take them away in a way that feels satisfying, right? It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah,
I
sometimes
trust
it
them to
doesn't
do it.
ever feel satisfying. Yeah, it's gonna be tough. Do you one thing question I've got, and I was surprised by it, we didn't get a solid release date. I thought we were gonna get that day today of it's coming out on this date. We
Yeah,
only know it's still fall 2023.
very
What do you make of
surprised
that?
by that. And I wonder if that's just because they want to give them as much wiggle room as possible because they are confident it will hit the fall. But it's like, is it ready for September? Do you want it in November? Right? Like maybe that's has more to do with them like feeling out the release calendar because I mean, historically, Insomniac does not delay games, right? They ship and they ship well and they're on time and they're good. So like I trust them when they say it's coming in the fall. I do. The game looks done, right? Like that was a huge slice of it and it looks
Yeah,
great.
but Cyberpunk looked done from the slice that we saw,
Yeah,
right?
but yeah, fair, but I don't
It's
think this
different.
is.
It's different. Like it's a whole different ballpark because
Yeah,
I believe that Insomniac can do it, and they've
and also
never
like
released a dud.
it's not as vast, right? It's linear. It's a story driven game. They've delivered us the original, a full game's worth of DLC, and a spin off game that were all good. And it's kind of like I feel like you guys got it right. Like I'm pretty confident this game's going to come out on time and it's going to be good.
Yeah,
And if it gets delayed, right? Like I'd rather them delay it and have it come out and hit than not.
me too. But that would really seal the deal on a pretty mid-year for PlayStation.
I think it would I think I'd call it worse lower than mid, probably.
Yeah,
But it's more
that.
like they're so
But going back to
successful that it doesn't matter.
going back to last week's conversation, I think that puts them in third place. Really, for me, like they've released a DLC and a VR headset that's not really been well received, and
I think I would agree with you in terms of like hype announcements and like fan reaction, but I think like they just had we can't talk about it this week because we're so dialed in on this event, but they just had a they just had a thing where they talk to shareholders and everything, right? And they're like the PS5 is on track to outpace the PS4 in terms of like all of the significant metrics that are, like active players and all that stuff. Like the transition is successful, the thing's selling better than ever. So like
yeah,
it would be a bad year for them in terms of like, mind share, but also like you made the comment about the third party stuff. Most people have a PlayStation and play their shit there. So even
yep,
though like Jedi or whatever is somewhere else, they don't have an Xbox, they don't care. So,
yeah. But Final Fantasy 16's here,
and
and
that's
that's an
going to come out too.
exclusive.
Good
Yeah,
point. Yeah, I didn't even think about that one. So like I think it
and
would
that one's coming out next month, right? June 22nd. So
yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
really close.
It would be a massive blow for it to not come out, but I think it would be a worse look for it to not be polished and up to
Well,
expectation.
especially after they released The Last of Us Part One on PC.
Mhm.
If they release another game that's a mess, you've got to be asking what the hell's going on over there. Are
Yeah,
they even
right.
doing QA at that point?
So I think looking at this, I'm confident they'll hit fall 2023, but fall is a big window. And like if they need another 6 weeks to really like polish it up and it's like, or another big game is gonna launch at that time and they don't, like again, like Starfield is coming in September. Maybe they're like, do we really want to
Yeah, maybe they're like, well, let's see if people like it next month, and if we think it's not very good, then we'll release it in September.
and like that could genuinely be part of the like game that they're playing right now is like where is strategically this a good spot? And if Starfield's direct next month looks incredible. And it's like, all right, do we really want to? Why
Or
don't we
do
put
they
it out
release
next
it
month?
alongside Project Q? If that is rumored for later this year,
That could
maybe
be
that's
true.
like, oh, we do a bundle and you can play Spider-Man in bed, and
That's
or
how they
take it on
get
the
me,
go with
man. You
you.
give me a one of those with a Spider-Man logo on the back. Forget about it. I'll buy it then.
I'm surprised we haven't had any like the branded plates yet. Like I thought we
I
would have
know.
had some of like the branded like Spider-Man ones
I
or
was
some
hoping they
like
were going to show
Horizon
one
ones.
today. I was like, oh, like
Mm,
like pre-order the Venom faceplate or whatever, and it's like the same logo as I have on my PS4 Pro, but it's the black suit instead. Like that'd be kind of cool. But
yeah, it
oh
would be
well.
really cool.
Anyway, so that's all the really good stuff. So we're gonna get into some more of the nitty gritty, and then I want to also answer I think a very important question that you've posed here, Steve, on the back half. But before we do that, let me remind you that this episode of the FlipScreen Games podcast is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of May. They're of course Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valens, Earth Visitor, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, aka Sobe, Snackago, Ty the Dude, and Wakahula. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. You're all the real, still the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. If you want to go show your support just like they did, head over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you can find links to our Patreon, our Discord, our email address. However you want to get involved or get in touch, we thank you for tuning in to another episode of the FlipScreen Games podcast. So here's the thing, Steve. We got a lot of other announcements here.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be honest with you. I'm not that excited to talk about most of them. So I think I would like to kind of rapid fire through this section so that we can save some
Look,
space.
there's a bunch of crap here. Let's just be real. You know what the actual fuck was Square Enix doing with their soap Splatoon ripoff foam stars? Like seriously, what is that?
That looked rough. That looked rough. And I gotta say, like the opening, it's not no disrespect to Fair Games. Like obviously Jade Raymond is new Studio Haven and everything. Like there's talent there. I just feel like I
A
don't want to see
cinematic
I
trailer
don't want to see
again?
cinematic trailers for multiplayer games. Like that's not interesting. Like I only think you can get away with a cinematic trailer if it's for a like first person or not first person, sorry. Like a single player story driven game where you're trying to like sell people on the world and the vibe and the style. To me, I'm just like, okay, what is this? Is this a Watchdog style single player game? Is this a hero based shooter? Is this a,
It looks like someone took GTA 5, The Heist, the online thing that they did, and they were like, "That's a really cool
it
concept.
reminds me
Let's
of
make that
Payday,
an entire game." Yeah.
same vibe, and it's like, that's fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's just like the fact that I walked away from that trailer being like, the only significant thing I can say about this is that it's from Jade Raymond's studio. And I know that there's talent there. So I want to be like, hey, cool. But like, this
Yeah,
is
but in the
not how
same
you
vein,
show
like,
off this kind of game. It just
she put
isn't.
nothing out over at Stadia. Literally nothing got released. So, there's a lot to be seen for this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna put that on.
Oh, that's not on her.
That's
No,
on Stadia, right?
that's on Stadia.
For sure. But again, right? It's like, she helped create Watch Dogs. So when I look at this and I'm like, is this like Watch Dogs or is
I was
this
hoping it was
a
like Watch
squad
Dogs, and then
shooter?
it was I think, yeah, it's a multiplayer thing, and, I don't want that.
That's what I think, but we don't know that, right? And maybe,
Mm.
maybe, maybe we're missing. We're recording this literally seconds after this thing ended, so there could be a press release, there could be updated information. But again, that's a bad trailer. If I have to walk away from this being like, I don't really know what I saw.
But that wasn't just this trailer, that was, like, across the board, there was a bunch of trailers like that, and I
So
was just
many
like,
of them
"I
were
don't
like
know
that.
what this is, like, please explain more, please show me gameplay."
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think there was a lot of that, which I was definitely disappointed by. But I will say the next game that they showed was the opposite of that. Helldivers 2, that's good, right?
So,
Helldivers is an IP
one
that
sec, Pete.
has
Bef
what's up?
there's a post just to cap off Fair Games, there's a post over on,
Oh yeah, okay.
the PlayStation blog. It's a competitive heist experience, apparently. So my
Right.
guess is you team up and it's like it's a new type of PvP game with emergent sandbox gameplay, apparently.
Uh no thanks. And I know that that's like Sony's big push now is going to be these kinds of games, but like that does not speak to me, man. Um I thought the Helldivers 2 trailer I thought was really good. I think it had a lot of personality, and Helldivers is the original Helldivers is a game that has a big lineage on PlayStation. Definitely beloved by, a niche segment of the audience, but still, a significant amount, I would say. Um,
Mhm.
I think it's a game that's remembered fondly, and I think that this looks cool. Like it looks like a good action, shoot 'em up type experience, which is what the original was. And, it's a new perspective. I think it's in a style of game that's probably a little bit more mainstream. So this is cool. It's not through the roof cool for me, but for a good segment of the PlayStation audience, I'm sure that it is. I'm excited to try it. I liked the original Helldivers. It wasn't one of my favorite games of all time, but I have some really good memories of it on the Vita.
Yeah, I don't think I ever played. I never played Helldivers.
It's fun, but it was more like a top-down kinda experience before. So this is, like, quite a bit different, but, you know, I'm open to it. Damn, nothing for you, huh? Left you cold, Steve.
Sorry, I was looking to see if Helldivers has also come to other platforms, and I can't find any information. I have a feeling it is, and
It's
that
it's
seems to
coming to
be
PC.
yeah. So I don't know if there was many other exclusives really announced because I know the next one is in Immortals of Avium. It's EA Originals. It's
Yeah.
coming to other platforms coming July 2023, so next like 2 months time.
That one left me
Um,
pretty cold.
yeah, I was like, oh look, more magic arms and fights and things, and I was like, okay, yeah, cool.
The next one, Ghost Runner, 2, that one I thought looked cool. I don't know that it's for me, but I was like, "This looks like a stylish game that's got, like, good action." I could see the appeal of this one for sure.
Yeah, I never played the original Ghost Runner. I know it's over on Game Pass now, and I've been meaning to check it out for a while. Had like real cyberpunk vibes to it when it first
Yeah.
released, and I really liked the look of it. It just wasn't something that I ever got into. It kind of looks like it's like Mirror's Edge with swords and motorbikes, and I'm running and I'm attacking
Yeah.
people. And
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
like
we
that
took that
kinda
idea
it
and
almost
and
reminds
ran
me
with it.
of what was it? Neon White, right? Was that one from last year? It's like
Yeah.
almost that kinda, like, slick action game, and you're trying to get through in the most efficient way possible and all that kinda cool stuff. Definitely a good vibe to it. Not one that I'm sure I'll jump for, but, one I could see getting buzz for sure.
Hmm.
Phantom Blade Zero, I think similar for me, right? Where I was like, okay, like this looks like a good game, even if it's not my vibe, which I'm not sure that it's not, but it's
It's
a
not for me. I
hack
don't
and
like Devil May
slash
Cry.
action, dark Japanese samurai, setting or Japanese inspired setting because it's like fantasy. Um, Lots of like parkour and stuff like that. It looks cool. It looks like
Yeah.
a competent action game for sure, right?
You can see from my notes my like thought process. I was like, is this a Souls-like game? And then like it was like, oh no, it's more like Devil May Cry. Or is it an action adventure game? And I was like, oh, there's swords and like running up walls. I was like, this kind of looks cool, but probably not for me. This would be like if it was on Game Pass, I'd try it kind of deal, but I'm
Yeah,
not gonna go out my way to pick it up unless it gets like 8, 9 out of 10.
yeah, I'm with you. Um, Next up was Sword of the Sea, which is the next game from the team. I forget the name of the team. It's like it's Giant Squid, right? I think is the developer, and it's one of the creators of Journey who broke off from that game studio, and then like they worked on Abzu, and then they did was it crud? They had another game that I'm blanking on, but it's that team. It's the
The
Abzu team.
Pathless, I think.
The Pathless, that was it,
Yeah.
right. And, like, obviously, both of those games, pretty well received. Pathless, I think, especially was pretty well received. And it's another game in that style, right? It's got, like, this character who rides like, a hovering blade as kind of like a skateboard, and, um you're kind of like, or I guess a snowboard, and you're like gliding over all of these sand dunes and these desert environments that feel reminiscent of Journey. And then there's the sea segments where like you're seemingly in water. So yeah, taking the two aesthetics that they're best known for, and then adding in the kind of like, glidey, ridey movement of the pathless. This feels like a culmination of all the things that this studio is known for in kind of an interesting way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've always liked these kind of games. Like Journey was great, and it's always fun to jump into another one.
Yeah, I'm sure this one will find an audience, right? This is I think one of the bigger, you know, um indie announcements of this one
Hmm.
for sure. That was a cool one. Speaking of which, we got a trailer for the Talos Principle 2, right? Obviously, the original Talos Principle, another really well received, first
Phenomenal
person
game.
environmental puzzler, which I know you're a big fan of. Um,
Yeah, like, I was like, "Oh my god, is this Talos Principle 2?" And I was like, "It can't be, like, it looks too big. This is, like, a massive game." I was like, "No, it is the Talos, like, there's those weird little things and, like, the person." I was like, "Oh, this is so good." I'm so, so excited about this. This for me was one of the ones I was like, I've gone away and I'm really excited about it, but I've gone and wishlisted it on Steam because I wanna play
yeah,
it on my Steam Deck. It's
nice.
not something that I'm excited about to play on PlayStation.
Sure, sure. Still good announcement for the sake of the presentation.
Yeah.
So then we got to look at Neva or maybe Neva, which is from the creators of Gree, who are Nomada Studio, is I believe how you say that. And this one really grabbed my attention. Gree did not particularly speak to me on a feel level, but it was obviously a pretty game. But this one, the I got really invested in the story, right? The very short bit of
Anything with
story
animals, eh?
that they provide. Yeah, I mean, come on, right? It's like this lady who's got a magic sword and pink hair, and she's got these cool wolf, deer, animal companions, and I mean, that's you're checking a lot of boxes for me right there, right? Like
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, cool. Like this seems like a weird, sad platformer, kind of yeah, okay, I'm in. Like that's cool. This was one of the ones that had the uh biggest reaction from me during the show where like I perked up
Yeah.
and paid attention to this one.
That one, and also Revenant Hill, which was from the people behind Night in the Woods, the Glory Society. I was really excited
Yeah.
about that, like, seeing something else from that team and in that style. I was like, "Oh, yeah, this is great." I was like,
And
"Is that Cat May, like, running along? Like,
it's
what's
the
going
same
on?" And I was like,
face, right?
"Yeah."
Like, it was like, "Oh, okay, that's interesting." Yeah, and, like, Night in the Woods is an interesting one. I really liked the first, like, 3/4 of that game, a lot,
Mm. What,
and
finding the, like, disembodied parts around the place?
yeah, it was like I feel like that was the parts, like, I think, like, the actual, like the
The
before the
actual story
reveal,
didn't get you. You thought it was cool. The more the story unraveled, you're like, "Oh god,
you're like, "Oh,
no."
I actually don't like this as much as I thought I did," you know?
You're just
But
like,
it's
"I
like
just wanted to mess around and be Greg,"
but I still
Just
like that
chill out with
stuff,
Greg.
right? Like the slice of life stuff I thought was really good. It was when they tried to tie it into something deeper where I felt like it kind of fell apart. Whereas like something like Oxenfree, I think like did both of those things really well. So
Mm.
I'm like a little more excited for like an Oxenfree 2 than I am for their next game. But I liked Night in the Woods enough that I hope that, what is next from them is similarly, of that quality, but maybe sticks the landing a little bit better for me.
Yeah, I think Night in the Woods for me is a bit special because I remember playing it when I was in hospital for a couple of months, and it was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, this is, like, getting me through this period of time, and it's this weird story, and I love these characters, and Greg's awesome." So I was having a good
Greg is
time.
awesome.
Yeah.
So then we also got to look at Cat Quest Pirates of the Caribbean, and that's all of the conversation that game warrants. I'm gonna move on. So then we got to look at Plucky Squire. Right, this is a game we've seen a few times now. Like I think it was originally revealed at a Nintendo event. Right, it was a
No,
direct.
this was revealed on the Devolver Showcase last
Okay,
year, and it was the reveal for it. So I think we've seen it there, and we've seen it on a Nintendo presentation, but this was the first time we got, like, a really good look at more of it
and they
and
explain
more
the
of the
story and
gameplay.
like the
Yeah,
framing of it a little bit more, right? Like it's like here's our hero, here's his friends, and here's the villain, Humgrump, which I thought was a great name. Um
yeah,
and this of course is from James Turner, who was a former art director over at the Pokemon Company. So this is one that's gotten a lot of, I think, warranted attention. It looks great. It has a really nice vibe. I'm very excited for this one. I'm stoked that it is seemingly imminent, right? They said it's coming out this year. So,
yeah. I'm excited by it. I love the concept of, like, things coming to life and venturing out into the real world, and I think it's so cool. And the fact that you have to take him down on the pages, but then also in the real world, and then go back to the pages to kind of progress the story, I thought was really cool, and how they tie
yeah.
in the 2D and the 3D environments, and it's like a cohesive thing, I thought was awesome. I'm really excited to play this one. Switch is not going to be the place I play it, that's for sure, because it looks gorgeous. And I want to play this probably on Xbox or PS5.
Yeah, I think
But
you want to play it on a platform that's really going to be able to make the art style sing,
yeah,
because it's so good.
yeah, I love it.
Very pleased to see more of this one. Yeah, that's for sure. So then we got Teardown. I don't even remember this. What was this?
Oh, my dad was so excited about this. He thought it was going to be Teardown 2 because he's been playing Teardown on his Steam Deck, and I was like, no, it's probably just the console release because I'm pretty sure it's PC only at the moment.
Okay.
Basically, this is like a voxel game, and you just
Oh,
smash
oh,
everything.
I remember this one. Okay.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, it's a very good game. So
Okay.
it's finally coming to console, which is good.
Your dad's a
Sometime
man
this
of
year.
taste, so I'll take his word for it. So then we got Towers of Agabasa, is I believe how you say it.
Yeah, I don't. It may not even be that. I wrote it down as I was already looking at the Final Fantasy 16 stuff. To be perfectly honest with you, it
Okay,
could well be something totally different.
fair
But
enough. I'm gonna Google it
this
right
was some
now.
like this was like a town builder game where you have to like restore the ancient land and you fight monsters and collect resources and do all that stuff. I
Oh,
thought it looked
buddy, I
pretty
don't think
good.
this is what it's called at all.
No, I don't think it is.
You
But
gotta
it's
warn me
something.
before I just say
Towers of
things.
something. That's the one I meant to change it. I'm really sorry. But yes, Towers of something in the PlayStation.
Let me see if I can find it. Okay, it was Og Hasba. It's
Hosp I would
Aghasb. So you were
see,
pretty
I was so
close.
close. I was so close.
You were close.
Yeah.
This game looked interesting to me. The premise seems to be that at least this was the vibe I got was that your group is like coming back to your ancestral planet from like space and like you're
Maybe you
terraforming.
never left all along. Maybe it's Planet of the Apes.
Maybe, yeah, it could be something like that. But and yeah, that you're like you just restore. It's like it's got a Breath of the Wild influence for sure. You're paragliding around, you're fighting monsters, but
Yeah, I
then
thought
there's
it kinda
also
had
this
Monster Hunter or like Horizon vibes as well, like you're collecting the
maybe,
resources
yeah.
and things.
Yeah, but then like you're collecting the monsters and stuff, and like you're basically terraforming the planet again, and like bringing back the nature, and like building out your town again and everything. And I don't know, this one I thought was interesting. Like I think we've gotten a lot of this kind of game recently, so like I'm not necessarily itching for this type of experience anymore. But I did like the look of it and the style of it. Seems pretty cool. It's like an interesting environment. It's one I want to keep an eye on and see how it develops, whether or not it catches my attention.
Yeah,
Final Fantasy 16. This
it
game looks
exists.
this game looks insane. I'm so excited for this game. I know you're not a Final Fantasy guy. I know this is not one that's good that's gonna be a pop for you.
Could you tell from my comments how much I was really enjoying this trailer?
Yeah, you like made a shitty comment about the name of the studio, even.
Like, honestly, like, come on. Do you even really need to like reveal that it's made by Creative Business Unit 3?
First
Just
of
say
all,
it's
yes,
made by
Steve,
Square
because
Enix.
no, this is your thing. I hate when you do this because you're so ignorant about what you're talking about. That is the
No, I'm
team that
not.
makes Final Fantasy
Doesn't
14.
matter.
That means
See,
something to
really
Final
does not
Fantasy
matter.
people.
If it's a Nintendo game, I don't need to know it's been Nintendo EAD 3 or whatever. They don't ever
It's not the
reveal
same
that.
thing.
It's a Nintendo game.
It's not the
You
same
could just
thing.
say by this director or by this person instead and give the name of the person.
Because then you're only giving credit to that director rather than the entire team, which has a legacy of making Final Fantasy 14, which is the most popular game in the franchise of the last 10 years.
I genuinely think the name of a company everyone should know it's irrelevant at this point because look at what happened at BioWare. They made a bunch of good games. Everyone that made those games left, and then they made a bunch of crap.
That's not
And
true
now
of
they're
this
back.
team, though. This is the same team that's currently making the game that is the most successful thing in their portfolio.
Fair enough. I
Come
just thought it
on,
was a
man.
stupid name, and if they should probably give it a good name.
Just
Like,
check
come up
your
with a good name.
bias. It needs a good name. Nintendo EAD is a shit name,
It's
too.
a
Does that
shit
mean
name.
Mario Odyssey
Guess what?
isn't good?
But they never put "Made by Nintendo EAD" on their games, do they?
They should, by the way. So the point you're making is that Nintendo doesn't give credit to anybody, so no, neither should Square Enix.
No, I just think Square Enix should either come up with good names for their studios or just call it Square Enix and say it's made by Square
Just
Enix.
check
It's
your
coming from
bias, all
Square
right?
Enix.
You don't care about Final Fantasy. You got an axe to grind. You're being a real poopy pants right
Well,
now.
fair enough. Yeah, maybe. I
You're
don't
being a
know.
poopy pants.
I think if the game looked remotely interesting, I would have been on board. But the awful British accents, the legacy of crystals, I really just don't care about any of that
Dude,
stuff.
you are such a hypocrite. Yeah, like you just played the fucking bullshit Elden Ring last year, and you
That
were
wasn't
all
for the
about those
story.
stupid fingers.
How many times did I tell you that story was a load of crap? Stupid fingers and like feet and maidenless people and like all sorts of weird stuff in that game. I don't give a crap about that story. I'm not playing it for that.
All
Just
right,
in the same way I didn't play Breath of the Wild for the story, because that was
all right.
crap as
Are
well.
you done? Are you done? You done?
Yeah.
You done bitching about a game you're never gonna play?
Yeah, go for it.
Cool. So all the people that care about Final Fantasy, right? This game looks awesome.
Mhm.
Combat looks exceptional from what I've heard. From the people that got to preview it, they just did like a 6-hour preview that a bunch of outlets got to talk about. The story is apparently pretty engaging. Apparently, it's very cutscene heavy, and that the story definitely has some hot nonsense elements, as Final Fantasy is wont to do. So we'll see how that plays out. But I think just from a like looking at that combat, I'm very excited to get my hands on the sticks for this game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. You know, we'll
Mm.
see. We'll see whether the type of ridiculous it is like Final Fantasy 7 where it's good ridiculous, or like Kingdom Hearts like 1 and 2 good ridiculous, or is it like Final Fantasy 15 where I'm like, why is this a boy band with magic swords that drives around in a car? I don't know. What is this? And it's bad nonsense,
I
right?
remember playing the chibi version of that for Loot Pots, the mobile edition or whatever it was that came
Yeah.
out on Switch. It was terrible. I was like, "Why? What is going on?"
That game. My dear friend Andy Brown once said that is the most okayest game I've ever fallen in love with, and that is how I feel about that game. I beat that game. It's a mixed bag, but this one looks good, and I appreciate that it is uh a push towards more traditional fantasy, which is something that like the series has kind of gotten away from, I think, recently. And something a little more high fantasy. And it's also the first M-rated game in the history of the franchise. And apparently that is very apparent in the story. It's like darker and
Oh,
a little bit
what's
more
it M-rated for? Do
heavy.
you know?
I think it's for violence and then like sexuality.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. So we'll see. Obviously, you're not going to play this one, but I'm
No,
excited for it.
no,
I think this will be
100%.
on my
I'm not
short
playing
list for
this.
game of the year at the end of the
Are
year.
you're really playing this in June?
Yeah, absolutely.
What else is in June? I thought there was another big game in June. Oh, I'm
Mm,
playing Diablo in June. That's what I'm
yeah,
playing. I remember.
yeah. I'll play some of that, but we'll see. So then we got Alan Wake 2.
Yeah.
Mostly, it was like more cinematic than not, but we did get a good chunk of gameplay.
I think we got enough gameplay to
Yeah,
know that it's like, Remedy at their best. We've got some like control vibes in there from like the perspective over the shoulder with the
and that
and it
there
looks scary.
and
Looks
there's a
scary.
second playable character, right? Because to my knowledge, in the original, you only play as Alan, whereas in this one, there's
Mhm.
also this
As
like
the FBI agent. I can't remember
yeah,
her
yeah,
name. I
this
don't
this
think she had given
investigator.
a name.
I think they did give her a name. I feel like she had a name in the captions, but I just don't remember it. But yeah, she's like an FBI agent who's coming to investigate, the situation that Alan experienced in the first game. Um, yeah, I mean, I've never played the original Alan Wake. It's one of those ones that always was like, oh, I should get around to it. I should get around to
They
it. I
did
hear
the
it's great.
remaster last year, right? You
Yeah,
could always pick that up and give it a go.
I'd like to. I think if I have the time, this seems interesting. This seems like the kind of horror I could get behind.
I don't know. This looked like a lot of jump scares were
It's
coming your
spooky.
way.
It's
Yeah.
spooky. Yeah, we'll see. So then we got Assassin's Creed Mirage.
It's
Eh,
an Assassin's Creed game.
it looks good though. It looks like an
Well,
Assassin's Creed, but it looks
yeah.
good. This is the one that's supposed to be the more
The normal
tra-
one, the
traditional,
traditional, yeah,
right? Like
not
the
an
old school
RPG.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, which appeals less to me because I like the new ones. I only got into them with Origins.
Yeah.
So for me, this is like a return to old school. It's like going back to play the old Zelda games after you've played Tears of the Kingdom. You just can't do it anymore.
Oh my god. Your opinions infuriate me.
Yeah, sometimes I just do it to wind you up. It's really funny.
I know, and it works every time. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like every time there's a new Assassin's Creed, I like trick myself into thinking I might be interested in it, and then I
Nah,
just don't play
you're
it.
not. You're not interested in it. If you're gonna play a stealth game, please play Hitman.
Yeah,
Please.
or Metal Gear Solid 3.
Oh, good god. If you play that before you play Hitman, I would be very upset.
We'll see what happens. So yeah, moving along, we got to look at Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, which was like a anime action slasher. I don't know, not didn't catch my
Cool.
attention.
Yeah.
Street Fighter Six. Again, we've seen enough of this game. Just come out already. It's out in like
Yeah.
2 weeks. Like,
It was like downhill from here for me. It was like, oh
yeah,
cool, we had the Revenant Hill. Now we get some stuff I don't care about, and then a bunch of VR games.
yeah. And then there was Ultros, which was that very colorful Metroidvania esque like side scroller. Did not appeal to me at all. It looked
It was
very
too
slow.
noisy. Like I couldn't see the difference between like the characters on screen and the backdrops. It
And
was
just
like,
like the movement was like felt very stilted, and it's like, okay, so it's just the point, the visuals, because that's not enough for me. It just, it didn't do it for me. Then we had Tower of Fantasy, which was like another very, very like mech, anime type vibe to it, right? I don't know, not really grabbing my attention. Dragon's Dogma 2. This is another one that like I kind of sat up and paid attention to because Dragon's Dogma is always a game that I felt like maybe I would vibe with, right? I do like a good, um, high fantasy swords and sorcery type experience. Uh, maybe. Maybe this one. We'll see.
yeah, not for me. Definitely not.
And then we had like a VR rock block, Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted 2, RE4 VR mode. Um, obviously that's all kind of like old news. Arizona Sunshine 2 was a new one. That is the first game. Arizona Sunshine is it's a zombie VR shoot 'em up. It's not anything, revolutionary, but people really liked the original one. I remember that getting a lot of buzz. So I could see this one, connecting as well. Crossfire Sierra Squad was a tactical shooter that just looks like so many other tactical shooters that we
I
have seen on
know, it was
VR.
too many shooters for VR. We had a Resident Evil 4 shooter, we had Arizona Sunshine, a shooter, Crossfire, a shooter, Synapse, a shooter. I'm just like, really?
I did think Synapse looked good. Like I was like,
It
of this
it does,
style
but
of game, this
you
is
know,
more
yeah.
interesting. But
Yeah, we've seen it before, and, like, the style reminds me a bit of, like, Pistol Whip, which I thought was cool, but
sure,
even then, it's like, I would very much like just something other than shooters, like,
yeah.
explore and
Like
do
Beat
new things
Saber,
with
can
it.
you believe? Oh my god,
I genuinely can't believe it's finally on PSVR 2.
Steve, I booed at my screen and I was alone. I went, "Boo! Are you kidding me? You're bragging about this? Put this on Twitter and be embarrassed that it wasn't there at launch. Get
Yeah,
the hell out
it's
of here."
honestly ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, and you've, like, gotta rebuy it, I think?
Yeah, you do. And then they had Concord, which is the new game from Firewalk Studios.
Yeah, I was excited about the style, and then I looked it up, and it's a PvP multiplayer game, and so I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, no, I'm good."
Yup. Same
It's like,
reaction.
how many of these have they got coming from their first party studios?
Too many. Then they showed the Gran Turismo a trailer for that, which I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like you're wasting time on this? This is already out. Like you can watch this trailer."
Yeah, it was weird. It was like,
Awful.
"Oh, maybe not enough people had watched it, so
Awful.
we're gonna
Awful
gonna go
choice.
watch Gran Turismo."
Hated that. And then they did the rushed hardware, and then we got to Spider-Man 2, which was the only thing that of all the stuff that I hoped would be here was literally the only thing that was there. It was like nightmare status. Um, so then I want to end things on the question that you posed here, Steve. Not much first party. What are the following studios working on? And I'd love to speculate a little bit or like remind folks of what we know, right? So
Yeah,
Naughty Dog, we know that they're working on, they have a team.
fixing their PC mess.
That's true. But they have a team working on factions, right? To whatever the Last of Us multiplayer experience is going to be. We got a tease of that at Summer Game Fest last year. We still haven't seen it. You have to imagine that they also have a team working on whatever their next single player game is, whether that's The Last of Us Part 3
They're
or a new
working on a new
IP.
IP, aren't they? Yeah.
I don't know that we've had confirmation of that.
Oh, I thought they said that they were working on a new IP. I'm sure that
You might be right.
yeah, I thought Neil Druckmann dropped it in like an interview with GQ or something.
Okay. Yeah, could be. Could be. Um, so again, we know that they have multiple projects in active development, right? And it's like you got to imagine one of those are coming in. I thought we were going to see Last of Us at this. If you had asked me to bet on it, I would have bet that we were
Yeah,
going to see.
because I sent you that thing on on Instagram, right? And it was like a picture of Bella Ramsey that had been photographed with the hashtag
Yeah,
PSVR hashtag, and I was like, oh, weird. Why is that like hashtag for PSVR? I thought for sure we were going to see
something.
something VR from Naughty Dog and The
Yeah.
Last of Us.
Or again, I look at factions, right? Because you got to like when is that coming already?
I think that's the thing they're saying for G3,
Maybe.
Jeff's event. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, maybe so. Which is honestly I think a mistake because this event had needed it. It needed more heat and it had nothing.
Yeah, like
Similarly, right?
they sandwiched it weird, right? Like usually they start with like a hot announcement and end with a
Uh-huh.
hot announcement, and the hot thing was Spider-Man, but I just don't think Jade Raymond's project was hot enough
No,
to open the show with.
I think they should have opened with Spider-Man because it's a known quantity and we would have been like, fuck, all right, off to the races. And then it would have disappointed us throughout the entirety of the middle of it. And then it would have been the end, and hopefully that would have been something cool,
You know
right?
what? I think you could have ended it with the hardware and been like, "And we've got some new hardware coming this year. Here's a brand new handheld coming from PlayStation. It's gonna be able to
Yeah.
stream games from this, and it's called this, and it costs this. Isn't that exciting?" But no,
Yeah.
it was like a really weird bit with Jim Ryan.
Really weird. Sony Santa Monica, right? Obviously, they just shipped God of War Ragnarok, so I wouldn't like expect anything from them imminently. But we do know that Cory Barlog, obviously he didn't direct Ragnarok, and he's been leading a team on a new project and a new IP. And everybody thinks it's in space because of some stuff that he's tweeted about it, and some hints that he's kind of, um, you know, put out for fans over on his social media. So it's like that's another thing where I was kind of hoping we would maybe get a name, a,
Yeah.
a logo, like
I
I
actually thought we
didn't
were
need
gonna get
footage. I would have been happy with new game from Cory Barlog, confirmation, and it's coming, 2026,
well, just
we'll talk about it
have
next
him
year.
come on screen, like, that's something that both Nintendo and Microsoft have been doing a lot more of recently, showing some of the developers, and I feel like it would have been
Sony used to be
great
great at
to
that. They
see
used to
them,
be a
and we
company that had faces, right? You had Shuhei Yoshida, you had, Gio Corsi, right? Like you had these people that would come out and evangelize, and you'd hear from the studios, and it's like you just don't get that anymore. You hear from Jim Ryan, right? Who is
yeah.
just so unlikable. Nobody likes Jim Ryan, It's just Gorilla, right? Again, they just shipped
Well,
Horizons
I
DLC, so I
actually
wouldn't
thought we were gonna
expect
get some
more,
DLC
but
from God of War. I was surprised we didn't get it, and then,
the
Gorilla I
original
don't
didn't have
expect,
DLC
but,
though. I wasn't necessarily expecting it,
mm,
but
I could kinda see it though, or I wasn't it that it was set up for some DLC, or was it come to a nice
it
end?
it comes to a nice end, and I think the only way you could do it would be to explore a continuing storyline for one of the characters, and I feel like they wanna give it some breathing room and walk away from it for a little while, which I respect, because it
Yeah.
feels like it has a sense of finality. There are stories that branch off of it, but it's like, unless you were gonna go and do like a, Uncharted, what is it? The spinoff one.
Oh, Lost Legacy?
Lost Legacy. If you're gonna do something like that where it was, like, more of a full game, I could see that working, but I don't obviously I don't think they're there. I think the next thing we're gonna see from them is gonna be Corey's next game, and then
Yeah,
maybe,
maybe a
maybe God
return.
of War comes back in another, next console generation, right? Like, and you let it rest for a little while.
I don't know, like, it feels weird to just leave that resting, like, it was such a big hit for them. I kind of
Yeah,
feel
but
like
I
they
mean, I
would
don't
wanna
think the
capitalize
studio
on it.
wants to make another one right now. They said that the reason that they did it as a duology was because the alternative would be to work on the same story for like 15 years, right? It's like
Yeah.
I think that's not you want to be taking creative risks. And like God of War was a creative risk. Ragnarok was the satisfying conclusion and follow-up to that. Do something else. Stretch your legs. Come back to God of War later, you know? I wouldn't mind letting it rest 5, 6 years, and then when it comes back on the PS6, you're like, "Let's go," you know? In the way that, like, Uncharted is resting right now.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's gonna come back at some point, but I don't think it's gonna be a Naughty Dog game.
I wonder if that's not Blue Point
I could see
because you
actually
have that
being
on
Bend
it could be Bend, but I don't
'cause
think so
they
because
worked
Bend
on
is supposed to
the
be working on a new IP.
oh, yeah, fair enough, but Bend worked on the Uncharted Golden Abyss on PS Vita, so they've
Did.
got some kind of history with the Uncharted,
I
franchise.
I personally think they would not wanna make it because I think that game is, like, very much the redheaded stepchild of that franchise. Like, it was the only one that wasn't in the Uncharted collection. It is barely referenced in Uncharted 4. It is, Sony barely acknowledges its existence. So, like, Bend was, like, kind of like the studio that was known for its own IP and its own identity. They had to come in and be, like, second fiddle to Naughty Dog, and then that game's just been, like, lost to the annals of time, right? It's like, I don't think you want that. You want to come like they want to be a studio that produces something, that is on the caliber of Naughty Dog, of Santa Monica, of Insomniac, of Sucker Punch. They want to be one of those studios, and I think that's what Sony wants them to be. Whereas like Blue Point, we know that they're working on something new, but it's not a new IP necessarily. It's original project. I could see them doing like spoilers for Uncharted 4. I'm giving you the out. Spoilers for Uncharted 4. I could see them doing a Uncharted game that stars Cassie, and it
Yeah,
is
I mean,
like
that'd be quite nice. I mean,
we
I'd
do a
be
new
happy if
trilogy, new set of characters. Maybe you bring back somebody like Sam or Chloe or something like that in the Sully role, so there is a connection to the old stuff. But
yeah, I don't necessarily think there even needs to be that connection to the old stuff. I'd be happy if they moved on, you know? I feel like Uncharted proved that it could live on without really a connection to Nathan Drake, and I think we can kind of I think you
can
can
it
make the
did it
vibe.
though? Because Lost Legacy is characters we already knew and liked, right?
Yes, it's
Chloe
characters we
Chloe
knew.
was a lead character in 2 games at that point.
Don't think anyone liked Nadine.
No, not really, but, like, I actually liked her more after I played Lost
I
Legacy.
liked her having Lost Legacy.
She
I
was a
mean,
villain, though, right? So she
she
had a face
ran an
turn.
army.
Yeah. So, I think that's the thing, right? Is like, I think you're right. I don't think it needs a connection to the original cast, but I think it would be good to have a sense of legacy,
Yeah,
whether or not I don't think you want to drown it in that. You don't want it to be too much, which is why I would think you wouldn't have Nate in the game, or you wouldn't have Elena in the game, or if you do, it's really like it's a cameo at the beginning or at the end, right? And if you were going to bring a character back to be that kind of like older mentor figure, I think you do it with a character like Sam or Chloe or Nadine, or maybe you bring back Cutter from 2 or whatever, right? Like one of the was somebody that they know that we know and is like, "Oh, cool, like they're here, but like they're the supporting character now," right?
yeah,
That's I think
in the
that
background.
that could be neat. And I'd
Yeah,
like to see Blue Point do that, honestly.
I could easily see Blue Point doing, Bloodborne and bringing that up and refreshing that for PS5 in the same
But
way they did for
they're supposed
Demon's
to be working on
Souls.
a not a port is the thing, right? I thought they confirmed that they're making something that's not a new IP, but it's a new game. I think is
I mean, that could be Bloodborne 2, couldn't it?
like it could be. That I think is real. That is more realistic, I think.
Or like another Demon's Souls, like not something else in that franchise. You know, they just did Demon's Souls for PS5. Why
Yeah.
not make a sequel to that on
And they did make
PS5?
original content for that. So the idea of them making like a From Software style game in that series. Maybe not Demon Souls, because like there's the name, like
Mhm.
just you lean into Bloodborne because that's the
It's like
PlayStation.
seeing as PlayStations, yeah.
Yeah. Even though Demon Souls was an exclusive and whatever, but you know what I mean? I feel like Bloodborne is like
It's theirs. It's
has
owned by them.
everything.
It's published by Sony. It's yeah.
Um, so with Gorilla, right, we know that they're working on Horizon 3. We know that they have
A
multiple other
multiplayer game
projects
as
in
well.
development. I was kind of surprised to not get any mention of like I would have loved to have been like, oh yeah, the Horizon multiplayer game's coming. Like that would have been, I think that could have been a cool thing.
I could
Nothing.
have even seen more VR stuff. Like, oh, we're gonna do some DLC for Call of the Mountain. Like, we're gonna expand that. Or here's a new mode for it. Here's something, you know?
Yeah. So then Nixies, right? I'm trying to think of what
That they're the PC
they're
porting
just the
house.
PC port. So I
So,
mean,
like,
like
what are they bringing over to PC next? is what I'm curious about.
I don't
And why
know.
did they not work on The Last of Us? Um, and what are they working on instead of The Last of Us?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's Ratchet& and Clank.
That would
'Cause
make sense.
they've worked on 2 Insomniac games now, Spider-Man and
Mm,
Miles
I don't think
Morales.
it's that. I think it's Ghost of Tsushima. You gotta
You
get that
think
on
so?
PC. You gotta get Ghost of Tsushima on PC.
I think it's Ratchet& and Clank. I could easily see it, 'cause I would you gotta imagine those engines are pretty similar if they're both coming from Insomniac. Spider-Man and Ratchet& and Clank.
Yeah, maybe. I don't maybe, but I that game is newer than Ghost, and Ghost is hot, and they're trying to put that IP over. So I think Ghost comes next.
Yeah,
I also
possibly, but that's
selfishly
it doesn't
want Ghost on the Steam Deck.
but that could
So,
be done by, like, Iron Galaxy. Doesn't necessarily have to be done by Nixxes.
maybe. Yeah, maybe. Could be. But I'd be happy with that. I would. Um, Housemarque. I feel like Housemarque is gonna come up with a new IP. They don't do sequels
You
really. That's, like, not
Oh,
their
you don't think
thing.
they're just gonna do Returnal 2? I could easily see them doing
I
Returnal
think
2.
if you told me they were gonna make Returnal 2, I'd be like, "That absolutely makes sense."
Yeah, and they should
If
call it Return to Returnal.
that would be funny. But if they come out, I would be more surprised with them coming out with a Returnal 2 than a just a new IP that's in that same vein because that's their
Yeah.
whole vibe. That's what they do. Here's the next one. You know, you know what we do? We do the arcade thing, and it's like, all right, yeah, like keep on doing it. They deliver just quality. Now that like they've got bigger budgets, they've got that backing of PlayStation. Go make some
Mhm.
crazy shit. Sucker Punch, obviously they're making Ghost of Tsushima 2 and Ghost of Tsushima Legends 2, right? That's what they're doing. That's their two teams. That's it. They're locked up. That's another one where like I don't think that game's imminent. How hard would it have been to show a logo? How hard would it have been to have a cinematic?
I know, it's weird because but I don't know. I wonder if PlayStation's kind of reacting to criticism that Xbox has had, where it was like, we've seen all these logos, we know all of these projects, we know what they're working on, and we spoke about this last week. But where is it? When's it coming? When are we going to
But
see
Sony,
footage?
but they don't have that problem though, right? Like they rarely overshow games, like and not never, right? I'm sure people are going to come throw,
Beat Saber,
like
I've seen it before millions of times. What are you on
sure.
about?
I was gonna say Death Stranding, right, which had like millions of trailers. They shoved that in our faces a million times. That's a Kojima thing. You let Kojima do what he wants to do, though, right? Like
Yeah.
Horizon, we didn't see Horizon that much before it came out. It was like, here's the idea with a cinematic. Here we have some gameplay. Like it felt good. God of War, it came out in a good time frame. Ragnarok came out in a good time frame. Spider-Man 2, like you know, with Spider-Man 2, right? We only got a logo before now. This was our first real look at it. If
We
they had
saw
just
the 2 of them, right? We saw the Venom reveal, we had
yeah, but that
that
was a
video.
cinematic, right? There
Yeah.
wasn't gameplay. So it's like,
Yeah.
how hard would it have been to do that? Just be like, Ghost of
In the
Tsushima
same way they
2.
did the Wolverine reveal, right?
Yeah, just give me a little something. And I would take less than the Wolverine reveal if they just are like all hands on deck and you don't want to like be like, make a trailer for this. I get that.
I think what
Outsource
they
it.
could have done is if you think that it's coming to PC, you do Ghost of Tsushima coming to PC on this day and also Ghost of Tsushima 2 in
That would
development
be
for
that would have been
PS5.
hype. I would have been very excited if that had been included, right? And if that was the end, Spider-Man kicks it off, and then the end is, oh, the classic, modern classic, Ghost of Tsushima coming to Steam, this summer, right? It's coming in August. Great, awesome, Like, granted, you'd probably have that concern of, oh, is it gonna run, whatever, but if it was Nixies,
Depends
I
who
wouldn't be
you
worried.
get. If it's Nix's, I'm not worried at all.
Team Asobi, Astrobot, they must be
I
working on an
know, and I
Astrobot
really
game.
wanted it, like, but I really thought we were gonna get it as well because VR2 came out this year. I thought, it was ripe for another
What's up
Astrobot
with that
game.
though? Do you think that they're going to be making Astronaut Rescue Mission 2 where it is a pure VR game, or is it going to be a more traditional platformer like the demo for the PS5? Because
I
I think that
want it to be that.
I do too, and that would have a bigger audience.
Yeah, but I don't know what the mascot for the VR2 is at this point. Astrobot was the mascot for
But it's like, do
PlayStation
you want to
VR.
saddle Astrobot, who's a character and an IP that could be more to VR just because VR needs something?
No, not necessarily,
You
but I
know, I don't
think you could
know.
also get another team to do it and be
You can
like,
do
"We're
2
working on this
games.
big game, and this is like a small game." Or you have a VR mode in the same way that RE4 is getting a VR
Yeah.
mode. Like, you can
Yeah.
play that game either in VR or you can play it in just, like, on your screen.
A lot of work, but that would be cool.
Mhm.
And then last up is Media Molecule, right? I mean, like, we know that Dreams is ending. I don't imagine that whatever is next from them is anytime soon.
No.
I think what is next from them will be a more traditional game. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually did something smaller next rather than like something because they had what was it, Tearaway, I think was the name of
Yeah,
the game.
I really
Yeah.
liked that, it was very innovative.
It was like a cool indie thing that they did in between Little Big Planet and Dreams. I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like
Well,
that
they
as
did
kind of
Little Big
like
Planet on the Vita as well, at
yeah.
the same time. They were, like,
I
pumping
wouldn't
out stuff.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did that as kind of a slump buster. I also wouldn't be surprised if they brought Little Big Planet back. Little Big Planet was a huge IP for Sony for a long time, and it's been away for a long
Wait,
time.
we had the new Little Big Planet launch title on PS5 Sackboy,
That was
right?
Sackboy's Big Adventure, though.
Yeah.
That's more of like a Mario World style, Mario 3D World style platformer versus like, you know, the creative
All in your
suite
games,
of
yeah.
Little Big Planet and everything, right?
I don't know, I kinda feel like I could easily see Media Molecule closing at this point.
I think so too, but I think they'll get one more at bat, which is why I think the things that they do next will be traditional and safe. You know,
Yeah.
I think they want to keep Media Molecule around as like their weird. They make more family friendly stuff. They make cutesy stuff. It's not the big, third person action. Like it brings a diversity to the portfolio that is more mainstream than like the team that they just closed down, the Concrete Genie team, right? Which is like that's a more niche indie darling type studio. And I get PlayStation being like, we're not in the business of doing that. We make blockbusters. Little Big Planet was a blockbuster, right? There were multiple Little Big Planets that were blockbusters. So the idea that Media Molecule, if they were kind of like, hey, just make a game, right? Not a, a platform, not a tool, like not something that is hard to sell. Make us a game that we can sell. I think Media Molecule is capable of that, of making something um, that does have that spark and that ability to connect with a broader audience and be something that is, like a live service type experience that they want that does tap into that Minecraft, Roblox, whatever type creativity experience, but that is a more traditional video game in like a capital VG video game way, in the way that like you could never do the creative stuff with Little Big Planet and you just still have like a good platforming experience. That was, the game, right?
Yeah, but
Whereas
that's the same as, like, Mario Maker, right? Super Mario Maker 2 had the built-in levels, and you can go and
yeah,
play it as, like, this is a 2D Mario game, or you could go and download other people's levels if you wanted
sure.
to, or you could, like, modify them, or you could just create your own. And I feel like that, Sony could do with something like that. I think maybe Dreams was just not marketed well. It was maybe a little
It
bit
wasn't.
too much for people.
And I think it was too unrestrictive. It was like you can make anything. Like, but it's like, why would I make a whole video game inside another video game where I can't export
People
it or
do that in
share it with.
Roblox, though. That's the
You're
thing.
right, but Roblox is not limited by
Multi-platform,
the
yeah.
PlayStation platform, right? And it's different. It's not as controlled. It's like Dreams had all these like like anytime someone made a cool copyright thing, it would get taken down. Roblox gets around that in a lot of ways. Like it's such a different beast. You know what I mean? And like Sony
Yeah.
didn't support it the way it needed to make it a thing. Whereas like Little Big Planet, I think it was easier to be like, if you just want to buy a Little Big Planet and play it and that's the whole experience you have with it, that's satisfying. And that if you are somebody who wants to create and do that stuff, there's incentive for you to do so, you know? And I think that's the balance you need to find for those games to really be successful is like, it's got to be just as fun for me as somebody who just wants to play as it is for the person who just wants to create.
God, I can still never ever believe how much Roblox is worth. Every time I look at it, I'm just like, this is mental. It's worth $25 billion.
That's insane. I wonder how long that lasts. Obviously, it's like
It's
the
almost the
legal
same as
stuff is getting interesting there.
well, yeah, they're like apparently they just had a huge influx over the last 2 weeks because they reported really strong user engagement and stuff.
Damn, it's a beast,
I mean, it's not
absolute
difficult to
beast.
make kids hooked on your stuff, is it? And like get
Mm,
them locked into your
depends.
platform.
Yeah, like y- you're right about the whole get 'em young thing, but it's like it's got to be good, right? The experience has got
Yeah,
to be there. Um, clearly
yeah.
it is.
That those people making games documentaries were pretty eye opening. I would recommend anyone listening
Yeah,
who wants to look into Roblox's business go watch those.
very very enlightening in in many ways. Go check it out. So yeah, I think overall disappointing. You know, if I had to rate this one, I think I'd give it a C minus.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I was thinking C, but then I'm excited about some of the third party games like Plucky Squires and Talos Principle 2 and
I think my thing with it is like if I'm just judging the Spider-Man segment, it's a 5 out of 5. Everything
yeah.
else, I was like, I don't know. Most of this was
Mate,
not for me. And again, even for me as somebody who just likes presentations like this, I can get excited about the presentation of a game I don't like or I'm not interested in if it's done well. I don't even think it had that. There's so many games here where I'm like, oh, like I mean, even if this isn't for me, like this is just a bad way to show this off.
yeah, it felt like there was a lot of padding, right? Like, oh, we
Yeah.
need to hit this time slot, so we're gonna make it this. But I feel like you could have been like, no, we're gonna cut that, we're gonna cut that, we're gonna cut that, and we'll kind of come back to these in maybe a state of play instead. Some of these smaller
The
titles.
fact that not even half of the announcements were from the first party makes this a bad showcase, like, on its face.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. When you list the number of studios that they've got and the number that are completely missing, and we have no idea what they're working on, and there's no announcements from them. It's crazy because these showcases were always like, this is the reason to buy PlayStation. This is the reason you get excited because we have all of these games from all of these like blockbuster studios
Yeah.
that you know and
You can
love.
only play
And
on our platform.
yeah,
But that's the
and
thing is, like, I feel like that used to hit, that used to mean something, and it was always, like, even if you weren't a PlayStation person, a lot of times you'd have to, like, give it to them that they had the best presentations because they had the bangers, and they knew how to have the pacing. Right? And it's like to take it back to your dad's comment at the top of the episode. It feels like a major step back that they just like they don't have it anymore when it comes to like presenting this shit in a way that hits the way that it used to, you know?
mhm.
And I mean, it's only been 2 years since they had one that was good, right? The Wolverine one we were just talking about. That was one I look back on fondly. But even so, it's not 2016, right? Where they announced Horizon, God of War, I think that was when we maybe saw Days Gone or Death Stranding. It was like a lot of the games that went Last of Us Part 2, I think was the first time there. A lot of the games that defined the PlayStation 4, we got in one showcase for the first time. Or we got looks at all those things, right? Not having that for me right now, like not having the narrative ahead of me of what is the next phase of PS5 when that was supposed to be the promise of the showcase, hugely disappointing.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm 100% with you. Like even some of the first party games, right? It's like they'll come, like, some of them it seems like are coming day and date to PC based on the way they announce them, and it's kind of crazy that that's the case. Fair games very much seem like it's coming to PS5 and PC at the same time as a multiplayer game, and that would make sense. But
Which is like, yeah,
um,
that's probably the right move, but it doesn't to your point earlier, it's not exactly inspiring you to turn on your PS5,
mhm.
and that sucks. And like, I'm looking forward to Spider-Man. I very much am. I'm sure that I will sink a ton of time in it. I think
Well,
probably
that and Final Fantasy, right? You got two
sure,
big games coming for your PS5 this year, but
2. I
yeah.
would say 2 of probably my top 5 games of the year will be PlayStation exclusive. So, you can't take that away from them, but also, like, y'all used to just know how to manufacture hype. And it sucks that I went into this expecting I went into this very confident that this was gonna be a banger, right? And I try not to do that going into these showcases. I try to go in with measured expectations. And I was very confident that that was not necessary, that they would have it, that they would deliver, that it would be Spider-Man and, mentions of all those games we just talked about that we know are in development. But I also wanted to see the stuff we don't know. I wanted to get hype for what comes next. I wanted to have a reveal that gave me that sense of like, damn, this game is 4 or 5 years away, but oh my God, I can't wait for it. It's the next Horizon. It's the next God of War. It's the next Uncharted. And we just still don't have that. We don't even have a whiff of that. And I'm confident it'll come, but god damn, give me something to talk about. Give me something to chew on.
Yeah, I think we literally know nothing outside of this year that first party is releasing.
That seems nuts. Right? Because even before now, we had Spider-Man to look forward to. We know Wolverine's coming. That's it though,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but that's
That
got
and
no
Last of Us.
definitive date, but we got no clue when they're coming. Like it's not like, "Oh, in 2024, I know this is coming." There's like no kind of window of anything that we know is coming next year. So they're gonna have to reveal something at some point.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is like I guess the reality is that right now they don't need to. Because as we just said, the PlayStation 5 is breaking records. They have two very hot, highly anticipated exclusives coming this year. What do they have to prove? The answer is nothing. And that's why we got this showcase that we just got right now. But that sucks because that is my least favorite Sony is when they rest on their laurels and they're confident that they're in first. They don't need to impress. No, man. Like, don't do that. Like, if you're ahead, ground their face into the dirt, and I get it. They don't want to do that because they want to look weak and they want to stop the competition. But I think they know that's not going to happen. I think they know that that deal is going to go through. And it sucks to me that, like, it just feels like they're not willing to gas us up. And I want to get gassed up. I want to have that feeling of, oh, why should I buy a PS5? Are you kidding me? This is out. This is coming. This is coming. That's the energy that we should have coming out of this. And to be like, it was mid or it was lower than mid, that's a bummer.
Yep. Yep, 100%.
All right, man.
Still,
Well,
points on the board for me.
points
So,
on the board for you. And
in terms of that, it's an S rank for me because Marathon's here, and I'm never gonna play it, but I've got points on the board.
but you got points on the board. Maybe the trophy makes its way across the pond. I will say, take it back to last week's show. This makes a very interesting tee up for Microsoft Showcase because they can't just talk, but the fact that Sony didn't, if they want to come out and gas us up, we'll be ready to eat that shit right up.
Oh, yeah.
So they got to
Yeah.
be pretty pleased about that.
Well, we know how many games are in development over at the Xbox camp. It's like they've already told us. They only need to show us some of it now, right? Let's see Contraband. Let's see that Indiana Jones game. Let's see some more of Hellblade.
Avowed.
Avowed. Outer Worlds 2. Like, there's so
That's
much
got
they
to
could
be
show
soon,
us.
right? Outer Worlds 2's been in development for
I
years now.
kind of feel like they're pausing that for Starfield. Like, I feel like Starfield's out the way, Outer World 2
You're
comes.
right. Maybe next year for
Mhm.
that one. But either way, there's stuff. There's stuff coming. And I just want to be excited about what comes next. And what we have now is so great. Don't get me wrong. Tears of the Kingdom is out. We're having a great time. It's been a good year for games. It's going to be a great year for games. But I feel like all of them are just being so tight-lipped about what comes next. And I
Yeah,
want
like,
that
I understand
horizon.
it. I understand it from Nintendo, right? They're coming toward the end of their life cycle on this console. They don't really have much else. So I get it there. I don't get it with PlayStation. I really don't.
They should be
And
ramping
maybe
up.
and maybe we're gonna get another one of these showcases later this year, and this was the one that was delayed from last year, and it would kind of make a little bit more sense then that we would have got Spider-Man gameplay last year where we would have been a bit more excited about it. And, the Project Q not having a release date would have made more sense and all of that
Yeah.
stuff, right? So I could see that, but, I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they don't take a year off next year and we get another one next year. And then, like, that's the one, right? Where we start setting up some of these dominoes of like what's next because they'll be
Yeah.
more imminent and it won't be like, hey, this game's coming out in 2026, right? And it's like, oh, that's kind of a long time.
I feel like we knew in 2016, like, a bit of an avenue well, we definitely did, right? Of a route that they kind of had from they outlined
Yeah,
what they were going to show on
that's what I'm saying,
PS4.
right? Like,
Whereas we're now 3 years into the PS5, and it's I don't feel like we know really what's on the horizon.
yeah, let me see. So, like, looking at the recap from their 2016 showcase, yeah, this was the one where they revealed God of War, they revealed Spider-Man, they revealed, Horizon Zero Dawn, Detroit Become Human, The Last Guardian,
Wow.
Batman Arkham VR. There was a lot. The Crash Bandicoot remaster, I think, was this year as well. Um, so it's like, yeah, Crash Bandicoot remaster was that year as well. Um, Prey got looked at that year. Like I said, Days Gone already. I think that was on there. Gravity Rush
Hmm.
2, Gran Turismo Sport, Riggs, which was another one of their PSVR titles. Like, there's a lot of stuff. Resident Evil 7. Uh, this was not that,
No, no, not
and
at all.
it's not fair to judge everyone by the best that they've ever had, arguably, but like, I just feel like it would have been so cool for them to come out and be like, PlayStation 5, you can get it in stores now. Like, it's selling like crazy. We're on top of the world. And here's what the next 5 years of PlayStation 5 look like. Get hype. Like
Hmm.
I wanted them to come out throwing haymakers at Xbox. We're here and we're busting it up. And it's just like, it feels like they're just like, oh, no, we're good. We're in first. We're comfortable. It's like, that's lame. That's loser energy. Don't do that. Stay ahead. Be ahead. And they just did not bring it.
Who knows? Maybe Gran Turismo movie will knock it out of the park, and Spider-Man 2 will be a real success, and then we'll get to see what's next. But yeah, for now, like I said, no reason for me to turn on my PS5 again.
Yeah, unfortunate, unfortunate. I'll tell you how Final Fantasy shakes out.
Yeah, let me know. Maybe
So
get
if
someone
y'all,
else on to talk about that because I will not be able to not laugh about
yeah,
the
well,
Chronicles of Crystals or whatever the fuck it was.
I'll say this: if you've stuck around this long, right, you're this deep in the episode, I'm going to give you just a little clue. Maybe we got something cooking in that department. Who's to say? Who's to say? Maybe there's some rumblings going on here on our side of the fence. So you get excited for that. Anyway, thank you all for joining us here for another episode of the FlipScreen Games podcast. We appreciate you sticking it out for an extra long one with us so that we could sift through the black box wreckage of this PlayStation showcase. It is officially the Summer Games Fest season, gang. This was the kickoff. It didn't live up to what I was hoping for, but we got some good ones ahead. Obviously, Steve and I are going to be here covering it all for you. So make sure you keep it tuned. And thank you guys for joining us here for this one. If you want to write in with your thoughts on the showcase or the stuff that you're looking forward to during Jeff's Summer Game Fest, the Xbox Showcase, the Starfield Showcase, Devolver Digital, Ubisoft, all of them, whatever's coming up that you're hyped about, we want to hear about it. Write in for next week's show and let us know because guess what? It's that time of year, baby. It's G3, we'll call it. It's the G3 season.
Yeah, I like that.
So get hype, all right? Because hopefully somebody else will show up where PlayStation has failed us, all right? And we'll have something to look forward to. But either way, you keep it tuned here, and we'll talk about it with you. We'll conversate with you. If you want to keep the conversation rolling between now and the next episode of the show, remember, head over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you can find links to our email address, our Discord, our Patreon. However you want to get involved, get in touch, or show you support, we appreciate you tuning in for another episode of the show. And of course, we'll see you next week for another episode of the Flipscreen Games podcast. For the crew, I've been Pete. He's been Steve. He's been Steve. Fuck. We'll see you next week.
I
One
really
of
want
these
someone to do a
days.
super cut of "He's been Steve" and it's always
It's
wrong.
just me
Thanks,
pointing the
just
wrong way.
please.
Oh boy. All right, we'll see you next week, babies.